What's up, this is EasyOS 10 and welcome to another video. I'm doing a little something different today. I'm in front of the camera, not hiding behind a screen capture this time. Basically, we're talking today about WWDC. Apple released a lot. It was a big WWDC. They announced OS 10 Mavericks, iOS 7, and a couple bits of hardware. I'm not going to go over everything because there was a lot to go over, but I'm going to go over the big features first of OS 10, then of iOS, and then some of the hardware announcements that they covered. So first off, OS 10 Mavericks is the new naming scheme. They kind of joked around calling it Sea Lion because they ran out of big cast. Instead, the new naming system is going to be based off place names. In this case, based off a big surfing area in California. But besides the naming convention change, a couple major differences in OS 10 Mavericks. First off, Finder, which has been kind of neglected for the last few years. Finder is getting a bit of an improvement. They're getting tabs, so you're going to, instead of having multiple windows scattered about your desktop, you're going to be able to just have tabs, essentially, so that you can easily change files, switch between folders. I've seen this on Linux before. Linux has had it for a while, depending on which version of Linux you had. It's a really handy feature. You also have seen it in some other Finder alternatives, like Pathfinder, for example. Finder is also getting tags, which essentially means, besides saving a name and a place for any sort of file, you can also give it a tags, or a tag. That was good English. But these tags, you're going to be able to search them in Spotlight or in the Finder search to be more easily able to find these sort of documents or files that you need. So very helpful probably if you're looking up, say if you're doing some kind of report. Multiple displays has also been improved in OS 10. A couple major notes. Finder bars in every display that you have attached now, as well as multiple docks, a dock for each sort of display you have hooked up to your Mac. And likewise, full screen apps are better supported now. It used to be on Mountain Lion and Lion. Full screen apps would, if you had multiple displays, pretty much just be hooked onto one display, and then your second display would just have the standard Linden background, no other apps running. That's changed now. You can run multiple full screen apps in your monitors, as well as you'll be able to just have full screen in one and a normal desktop in the other. Great for people who use multiple displays, productivity users, pretty much things like that. Safari has also gotten a major update. That was highlighted a lot. Shared links for one thing, so it's kind of like a Twitter-esque link sharing system. iOS is also getting this. We'll talk about that later. But essentially you can share links to followers and to contacts in your contact book. Like I said, very Twitter-esque, very cool. Reader also got an improvement so that when you have multiple files shared in your reader, Safari Reader, excuse me, that you can easily scroll through them. So you're reading one document, one web page, get to the end, and you can start reading the next one immediately. It just opens right up below it. It just keeps on flowing through. They also showed some JavaScript improvements, overall speed to the browser. Quite impressive if they turn out to be as true as Apple says. Notifications also got an improvement from Mountain Lion Mavericks. Notifications used to be, with notifications, you'd have to click on the notification and it would just take you to that app. Now notifications allow you to do that as well, but you can quick reply from, for example, FaceTime, messages, and email were once shown. iOS may be getting this, didn't necessarily get announced, but the fact we've seen it in OS 10 Mavericks, excuse me. If I say Mountain Lion again, I mean Mavericks. But we may see this potentially in iOS 7. Mavericks has it, very cool feature, so notifications. Hopefully we'll see in iOS. A couple other app improvements, minor app improvements. Calendar doesn't have the sort of leather feel, doesn't look as much like a normal real-world calendar. But also, iBooks and Apple Maps have moved over to the Mac system from iOS. iBooks is Apple's e-reading solution, so now you can sync whatever books you're reading on iOS over to OS 10 and read it from there. Likewise, Bookmark and Reading Place syncing also supported between the two. Apple Maps has also been added to OS 10, meaning that you can open map links that people send you on your Mac, and likewise you can send directions and links from your Maps app on your Mac into iOS. Depends, obviously, Apple Maps isn't exactly the most highly rated Maps application, but if you do use Apple Maps, which has gotten better, definitely a great way to go, especially since this has been a market dominated by pretty much Google. And last couple thing, a lot of under the hood improvements for Maverick, both in terms of security and features. For example, a lot of power saving. They really talked about conserving power. For example, app nap, so that if you're not using an app and you've got it hidden behind another window, the process will not focus on that app as much. It'll actually kind of like not use the processor, essentially, is the best way to describe it. Scrolling through the Mac has gotten a lot smoother, kind of sped that up. And also talk about compressing memory, so that inactive memory in terms of like RAM memory, it will be compressed to allow for more free space and allow for your Mac to quickly access that. Now let's talk about iOS 7, which got a huge update. iOS looks completely different now. Well, not completely different. It's still the grid of icons, but the icons now have a more flat, less skeuomorphic feel to it, essentially. Apple and their developers really highlighted this, saying, for example, no virtual cows were killed in the process of making this. They ran out of green felt for Game Center, so they made a new design. All these sort of jokes to highlight the fact that they are completely getting rid of skeuomorphism, as much as it works anyway. So let's talk about some of the other features of iOS. For example, some of the other features besides the complete redesign is that it's more of a layered design. For example, when you drag Notification Center, instead of it just seeming to pop out of nowhere and having that linen background, it now has like a translucent look to it, so you can kind of see the icons, just almost through a little bit of a haze. But the Notification Center itself looks beautiful. Likewise, you can actually activate Notification Center from the lock screen. So not exactly like looking at widgets, essentially. I think it's a very nice implementation, just seeing all the same features you would see in your Notification Center, whether you have the phone locked or not. Potentially privacy issue, but we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. One or the other, English language. On top of those improvements, Siri has also gotten an update. Siri sounds a little bit more natural, actually kind of like Google Now's voice in that sense. Doesn't sound so robotic. Siri also has improved question and answer, has the ability to actually turn off antennas based off, just holding the phone and saying, like, Siri, turn off Bluetooth. It can actually do that now, as well as actually switching to Bing search engine, Microsoft's search engine instead of Google. Kind of that Google-Apple tension, apparently getting, more separation between the two. iTunes and iTunes Music has gotten one notable improvement, is that there's now iTunes Radio, which is kind of like their version of Pandora. Not so much like Spotify. Spotify, you can create your own custom playlist, whereas Pandora, you just create randomized stations. This is kind of what iTunes Radio is. It's more like Pandora. You just pick an artist or a genre, and it makes a station based off that. And it's actually, they kind of one-up Google, because Google offered a similar solution for $9.99. Apple has made theirs ad supported, so it's free for everyone. It's just going to be supported by ads, unless you are an iTunes Match subscriber, which is Apple's cloud streaming $25 a year solution, where then the iTunes Match subscribers are able to, basically they get the ad-free version, essentially like that. So if you want ad-free on iTunes Radio, get iTunes Match, $25 a year. Actually cheaper than, if you think about it, than Google's own radio solution. Safari got an overhaul, also getting the shared link feature, just like its Mac counterpart. Has also now the unified URL search bar. So instead of having one bar for search and one bar for the actual website, it's just all kind of meshed into one. Multitasking is now multitasking for all apps. It was kind of before limited to the music and call apps, a couple other apps, but now multitasking is pretty much true multitasking now, if you want to consider it that. The multitasking bar has actually got improvement. So instead of double tapping the home button and just seeing a row of icons, you actually see the icons as well as the window that is open for that app, and you can just swipe and get rid of it. Very Android-esque if you've used that before, the app switcher is, but it's still a very good solution, not knocking that at all. Last two features I want to talk about are Control Center and AirDrop. AirDrop is a system that will allow you to share links, files, photos, etc. with people around your local area. Definitely privacy oriented, because you can only share with contacts, and you have to allow, you can say only allow certain contacts to do it, or nobody at all. You can completely turn that feature off. But easy way to share a file. But it kind of seems then that Apple is not going for NFC, since it's just going to be over the air, over local areas. Pretty much seems to indicate that this is Apple saying we're not going with NFC, we're going this more wireless route, this less, one less antenna to deal with. And the last major note, and I know a couple of Android people are going to say we've had this for a while, kind of depends on your phone really, but is Control Center. Swiping up from the bottom of the screen, you will now have on iOS the ability to change actually a lot of settings and features there. You'll be able to turn on and off your antennas, both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi as well as 3G. You can activate Do Not Disturb mode. You can also actually do a couple of other things. You can adjust your screen brightness, activate AirDrop and AirPlay, as well as like play, pause, rewind your music and podcasts. And at the bottom, you'll notice they actually have 4 other applications down there, including a flashlight. So no having to download a third-party flashlight app. Apple now includes that. Others include other icons on the bottom include the camera and the calculator. The last thing I want to talk about is hardware. Apple released a bit of hardware, not a whole lot, not like a new iPhone or iPad. We're expecting that probably in the fall. But Apple released a new MacBook, which they released at WWDC. Has the new Haswell Intel chips, which are a lot more power, a lot less power hungry, to say the least. They're more power conserving. They really highlighted the fact that the 11-inch Air will now have 9-hour battery life, and the 13-inch Air has a quite impressive 12-hour battery life, based off their own test. That may vary depending on how you used your MacBook Air. Nevertheless, pretty impressive specs for those tiny little laptops. But the last big hardware thing, probably the thing that if iOS hadn't been there would have been the standout, hands down the standout thing in the keynote, was the addition of a new Mac Pro. This is a tiny Mac Pro. The Mac Pro had been kind of like languishing, essentially, in the Mac universe, hadn't seen significant updates, but now it's got a huge update. It's a radical new design, gone from like the standard desktop design to a 1/8 size. Looks like almost like a trash can or like a coffee machine kind of thing. Just 1/8 the size, a little computer. But it's incredibly powerful. They really geeked out talking about this. They talked a lot of stats. 12-core Xeon processor, two GPUs inside the machine. Really hyped this machine up. Went over a lot of specs. Talked about having a PCI Express SSD drive in there, which if you know SSDs, solid-state drives, you know they are incredibly fast. But plugging directly into a PCI Express port makes it a lot faster. Anyone who knows about hardware can estimate that's pretty fast, and Apple really hyped up those specs. And if you look on the website, the machine itself is pretty beautiful, especially going on the inside. They give you a tour of the inside of the machine. So now it's unlike the former Mac Pro. It's not internally expandable, so that means it's not as modular. You can't put in your own graphics card or change out parts as much as you want. All the additions have to be external. So they gave you 4 USB 3.0 ports. They gave you 6 Thunderbolt 2.0 ports, which were pretty fast. But whether or not there's going to be a lot of Thunderbolt devices there, that's in question. And they gave you a couple of FireWire ports as well. They also said Mac Pro, 3 4K displays supported at the same time. Don't know who owns a 4K display, to be honest, but that's still pretty cool. Nevertheless, will this be a design that pros take up? I hear a lot of pros talking that they like the new design. Whether or not they're gonna go for it, that's yet to be seen. I think it's a pretty cool machine. No price point though, and they say it's going to be released in sometime later this year. No specific date on those. So let me know. That's pretty much what happened at WWDC. New OS 10, new iOS, couple new bits of hardware. Let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments below. What did Apple do good at WWDC? What did they not do so good? What were you happy to see? What were you not happy to see? Or what did you not see that you wanted to see? Tell me what you think below. And, obviously be respectable, guys. But tell me what you think. Tell me what you thought about WWDC. I'm quite thrilled with WWDC. I'm really happy. I know a lot of other Apple people are. Tell me below what you guys think. And if you want to check out more, go to easyosx.net, and you can check us out also on Facebook, on Google+, and on Twitter. Very active on Twitter at easyosx. And thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.